Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, Peninah Malonza, former Deputy Governor, Kitui County, now heading these three dockets in one. Welcome to the bench.
Thank you.
Madam CS.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
What's it like settling into this new role? How is it?
It's very exciting. Of course, I was the Deputy Governor before in Kitui County, and now I am the CS in the national level. And so for me, there's not much difference, but only in terms of the management, the scope. Of course, when I compare, when I was a Deputy Governor, I was under the Governor. But today, you know, I'm the CS leading the docket. So that's quite a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a couple of PSs, right, who were on the bench a few weeks ago?
Yes,
right?
I do, and I'm very proud of them.
Yes.
Of course, we had the two ladies, PS Humi Bashir and PS Sylvia Mseya.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like an all-women's team, huh?
No, really. It is not all women team.
Yeah.
Of course, I have a male PS for tourism. Umi Bashir is for culture and heritage. Yeah. And of course, Sylvia is for wildlife. Yeah. So I have one male for tourism. Yes. Of course, for the first time, we've achieved the gender rule.
Yes, there you go. 2/3, 1/3.
Tourism.
Well done, well done. Speaking of achieving, during COVID, obviously, you know, the world was shut down and our tourism numbers weren't as good, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I've got some numbers here, if I can read them to you. Jimmy Kariuki, my good friend, former chairman, KTB, he sent me some numbers. It's pre-COVID, 2019. There were 2 million arrivals.
Yes.
Around 2 million, right? And the revenue was 163 billion shillings.
Yes.
2022, arrivals were about 1.48 million, revenue 268 billion. Are you surprised at those numbers going up so quickly?
I'm not surprised because we've really worked hard for the last, I think, 4 months. To be precise, we've really worked hard because, of course, when I came in, the numbers were at 870, and of course, you've seen that we've been cruising the country, and I think I'm the most CS who's really cruised this country. Of course, with the cruise ship, with launching, direct flights to Dubai, of course, and attending so many cultural festivals within the country. So we've really done a lot. But what I am very happy and excited about is because if you look at the numbers in 2019, there were 2 million, roughly 400 and something. But today we're talking about 1.4, a bit lower number. But if you look and compare the revenue that we've generated with the lower number, it has surpassed because we are talking of 164 billion by 2019. But today we have 1.4 and we've already hit 168 billion. 268 billion, yeah. That's
incredible. Why? I mean, how is that?
Well, it's just attracting a clientele of tourists who can spend a little bit more. Yeah. So for us, we've gone not for high numbers that really have no financial value, but we've gone for lower numbers that can spend more within the country. Yeah. Because basically tourism is all about forex exchange. How much are they living in the country when they come? Because we don't want to talk about high numbers, yet we're not earning a lot from the tourist flow in this country. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at quality, not quantity?
Of course. We're looking at quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me something. Where are these tourists coming from? What are the countries that are sending tourists here?
Well, of course, we have one of our traditional markets. Majority of them are coming from our traditional markets, and our traditional markets have been US. Of course, US is leading with 203,000. Of course, followed by UK, which is another traditional market, followed by Tanzania, which is just across here, and Uganda, of course, coming in number 5. Of course, we have other countries like Italy, which has seen a lot of improvement. In 2020, we had 12,000 coming from Italy, and today we are talking about 31,000 coming from Italy. So those are some of the most improved especially Italy, is one of the most improved market that we have seen.
Yeah.
But of course, we have seen quite a number of emerging markets like China, like Middle East, that is coming aboard. And we're very happy. Of course, Rwanda across here, Nigeria has done very well. Yeah.
That's good. You mentioned cruise liners.
Yes.
How is it? I mean, I've seen quite a few pictures of them docking into Mombasa.
Yes.
And tourists, coming out and
Of course, one of the things that has given Kenya a platform is because we have a new bay. And of course, we've seen quite a number of cruise ships. So far, we've received actually 4 since November. And you can imagine it's like every month there's a cruise ship docking. And that has been after 4 years without any cruise ship docking in Mombasa. And basically this is to say and to tell the world that, of course, we are ready for cruise ship. Because first we have a new bay that they can dock. And then again, we have a new leadership, of course. And there's goodwill from the political side. Yeah.
Okay, with this goodwill, how do we plan to market Kenya more?
Well, I have good plans to market Kenya. And of course, we're looking at marketing Kenya not only internationally, but first we're looking at marketing Kenya within the country. And that's why you've seen the seers seated here have been making moves to go to the media houses within this country. Because I want them to be the partners in this selling Kenya domestically. But we are also reaching out to our regional markets within Africa and basically looking at the markets that we think they have a tendency of having a greater population traveling for holidays, and even for medication, like we've seen with Tanzania, where they've been coming in large numbers for medication. So we have proper plans to market Kenya, and one of the things that we're going to market is going on digital. Because, of course, we're going online to market Kenya, because everybody and every new tourist is online. Right. And especially if you look at the world population today, we're seeing 65% is the young generation, the Z generation, the Y generation, the YOLO generation. And these are young people, and they are online. And so if you market through exhibitions, you may not find them there. But if you go digital, you'll meet them on online, and they can actually, you can reach them easily. Of course, we have KTB, Kenya Tourism Board, is our marketing agency, and they have continued reaching out on our traditional markets through exhibitions, of course, through promotional campaigns, and of course, through partnering with other countries, their agencies that market tourism in their countries. But of course, we have moved again into recruiting ambassadors for tourism in this country. We've realized that it's a young generation because of the 65%, and therefore we're reaching them through the young ambassadors. They miss tourism, they miss world, they miss social, whoever is out there whom we can call an influencer. We're also going a notch higher to reach into our influencers, our heroes in the country. Like, of course, you've seen Heli is one of our influencers. And of course, we are going to reach out. I've been trying to reach out to Lupita also. And I think we are at some engagement. And I believe that soon she'll come on board to market Kenya.
How come you haven't called me?
Of course, here I am with you. And before
Madam CS,
I check out, I'll have already organized. We've reached an agreement today.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You're talking about domestic destinations.
Yes.
Where do Kenyans like to go most in Kenya?
Of course, to the beach, majority of them, and you know that for sure. During December, if you've been in Nairobi, you've seen the migration towards the coast. And of course, not only the beach and the sand, but also we're seeing quite a number that are visiting our parks. And of course, if you followed the report that I released, majority of the numbers actually visited the coast and also visited our parks. But also we've seen another number, around 870,000 that are visiting our historical sites. And you know, for sure in Mombasa we have the Fort Jesus. Here in Nairobi we have the National Museum of Kenya, which has been visited more than any other museum. But we have also seen Kisumu Museum has been also visited. So we've seen the two museums are also coming up. And we are very happy because historically we've always seen visitations in the historical sites being for Jesus and National Museum of Kenya. Right. But now we're seeing other sites, and especially the sites outside the big cities, like now in Kisumu, and of course we're going to do the circuits within the counties so that we can develop products within those counties, because there is a lot that has not been discovered in this country. Yeah. The other day I was in Machakos planting trees, and I was amazed to hear there's this small hill that you pour water and water goes up instead of going down.
Correct.
And for me that was great. Yeah. And I said, where has this been? Nobody has talked about it. Yeah. And so it's within Machakos County, and that's why I'm working with the 47 counties so that we can develop circuits within the counties where tourists are landing in a county like Embu County. They can spend more than 5 days just going through the circuits and touristic sites within that county. Yes.
Well, yeah, and you know, speaking of which, and there are other places that people hardly know, like let's say the forest in Kakamega.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's great tourist attraction, or great potential, if I may say.
Yes, actually, talk of Kakamega, and today actually had the CEO from Kakamega, Minister of Tourism, and we were documenting what is there in Kakamega, and one of the things that came aboard was the Kakamega forest, and of course the crying stones, and also the Nabogo Mumea's, story and family kingdom, and of course the gold mining in that area. And these are sites that we can actually visit. And I'm very happy because, of course, the president of this nation also noticed that, and he has given me a directive that we should consider Western Kenya circuit and market it.
You have a lot of work to do, huh?
Yes, I do.
Kazi kwako. Tell me something. The current drought.
Yes.
And it's been devastating across the country. How has it affected your ministry?
Well, it has really affected my ministry, and you saw me in November when I came in. Of course, I released a report on the drought in terms of the impact it has had on wildlife, and we've lost quite a lot of wildlife. Of course, there've been quite a lot of fires, and of course, influx of incursion of cattle in the national parks, and again that brings now competition for the resources. So it is really affected us a lot. And one of the things that we're seeing racing is actually because of drought is the conflict between the human and wildlife. Because again, looking at a place like Savo that never received rains for the last, I think, 2 seasons, we've seen a migration of the wildlife, especially the elephants, going to the buffer zones and the corridors that we have. But remember, these corridors are meant for the wildlife to pass, not to stay. So we've realized that some of these places they've gone, there's pasture because it rained, but there's no water. So we find that they will feed and then come out to the human space, and then there's conflict.
And that, a lot of this human-wildlife conflict is really on the rise now, right?
Yes,
it's on the rise because, cattle grazers looking for better pastures, and then animals are moving from the parks into... How are you dealing with that?
Well, of course, we have strategies to deal with the drought. First, of course, the immediate, which we call the emergency strategies that we have to employ. And one of the things that we're doing in our parks is water tracking, because basically there is no water. The water ponds have dried, and of course, we realize that one of the challenges we have now is water and pasture. So we've been also buying, hay for the wildlife, especially the grazers. Of course, we have the browsers. they're somehow surviving the browsers because they feed on the top of the trees, of course. But with the grazers, really they're affected because the grass is gone. So we've been buying pasture. We've been also tracking water. And of course, concurrently, we are also looking at the long-term mitigation strategies where we are doing the water pumps, we're doing the boreholes, and we are also working with partners, at least to assist us in this area of drought.
Yeah. Tell me something, Madam CS. Which animals are most affected? Because there were some stories back a few weeks ago, elephants were dying in some areas. Which animals are most affected?
Well, of course, elephants are most affected because of their, they're big and they need a lot of kilograms of pasture, of course, 150 per day. And followed by, we've seen recently the giraffes following up, and zebras. And we are a bit concerned because when you see zebras actually dying, then the drought is really severe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some camels dying in the north. That was very disturbing.
Yes.
Right? Tell me something. The famous Masai Mara, has it been affected by this drought?
Yes, it is affected, but a lot has been done around Masai Mara, and I want to thank the new governor there because he has taken steps really to save Masai Mara. And it has been a concern for all of us. Of course, we know Masai Mara has been reported to be dying. So in Masai Mara, there's, the wildlife has been affected, but of course, we've good news from Masai Mara because it has rained, unlike Safo and Amboseli. So you cannot compare. The wildlife loss that we've seen is in Amboseli is the highest hit because basically in Kajiado it never rained. Safo partially rained in one side, but the other side never rained. So we're seeing Safo comes ranking number 2 in terms of the effect of drought.
Yeah. I was reading a story earlier on in the news. The meteorological department said the rains are going to be delayed further.
Yeah.
So they might arrive maybe in another 2-3 weeks' time, and they're not going to last as long as we expected. So what solutions are you coming up with to make sure that you can, make sure that it doesn't get any worse?
Well, of course, I've told you that we're doing long-term mitigation plans, whereby we're doing, especially in the area of water, we're doing the water pumps, we're also doing the boreholes. And we're mapping out in terms of how much water we need in some of the national parks, especially Amboseli and Safo. We're also going to be doing a lot of grass bulking. This is a new one because we've realized if we don't grow grass ourselves, of course we've seen it with this drought, that we've been buying a lot of hay. Yet we have quite a number of government parcels of land that we can grow grass. So we're going to do grass bulking, but also is a new product that also our people, and especially in the rural areas, they can grow grass and sell to us, and that becomes a cash crop too. Yeah.
Very good. Human-wildlife conflict. When animals invade farmlands.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And let's say they kill people. Right? People are trampled to death or maybe eaten by lions or even hippos in some areas. What is the compensation for that? Do we know?
Yeah, there is the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act 2013 as outlined how much you're supposed to be compensated in case of a loss of life. Of course, is 5 million. In case of injury, is 3 million, and of course, going down.
A lot of people say it's taken a long time for them to get compensated. They say there's a whole line of people waiting to be compensated. I know it's not your fault. You've been in the job a few months. But, what are you doing to make sure that people get compensated in good time?
Well, one of the things that I'm looking at is the challenge of that compensation, because I've realized actually there's quite a number of people who have not been compensated going back to 2014. And I have a report on my desk that has gone back to 2014, and you can imagine that person probably is a family that lost her life through, maybe somebody was trampled by an elephant, and up to today, how many years? We're talking almost of 20 years. They're still waiting, or even 10 years, they're still waiting. So one of the things that I'm doing, because I've realized we don't have enough resources to compensate, is to look at the other alternatives that we can do. And one of the areas that I'm considering is to come up with an insurance that now will cover people out there. And when there's injury, they can be compensated immediately, so that the families don't, experience this pain for long. The other things we're looking at is, of course, managing the challenge is managing the causes of human-wildlife conflict, because you have to solve the root cause. What is the root cause? The root cause is probably there's encroachment in the parks. Probably the animals are walking out of their enclosures, of course, which is a national park, to the human space. And we need to ask ourselves, where are the animals walking out? Probably it's because of pasture, it's because of water. And those are the things that we are already now providing within the park. And that's why we are also doing restoration of our parks, so that we can also do a bit of vegetation and also grass. Yes.
Tell me something, when it's the other way around, like in Meru recently, people turned on an elephant and they killed it. What happens in that case? What do you do about that?
Of course, it's wrong to kill the elephant, but of course I can imagine the destruction it had caused, of course, is against the law. And of course, we'll have to look at where was the elephant killed, of course, within the space, within the animal space or outside the animal space, and then, of course, the regulations will have to take course.
Yeah. Sometimes KWS or the offices are very far from where an incident takes place, like in some parts of Narok or Kajiado. The offices are very few and far between. It takes a long time for people to get the word out to, let's say, the wardens or the officials. What do you plan to do about that? Because, it's so difficult sometimes.
Well, one of the things that we've done with our wardens is actually to capacity build them to work very well with the communities. And in this matter, they've already given their numbers to the community. They can reach them through the telephone numbers. But again, we've had another support system that we had with the communities, the community scouts that we engaged. And I know you'll ask me this question. But of course, we engaged community scouts through a stimulus program. Unfortunately, the contract ended in December in January, actually, 31st this year. And again, of course, we didn't have more money in that package, and that's why we've not called them back to the work. So they've really been assisting, because they've been relaying this information to our wardens and to our rangers, and we've seen that there's been a quick response in case of anything. And of course, as a cabinet secretary, I've also been receiving direct calls, and when I receive, I act.
You do, huh?
Yes.
Well, you answered the question I was going to ask you about those, the scouts, 5,000 or so who laid off in January. If you did get the money, if you did get a budget, would you rehire them?
Well, we would, because from the cry that I've had since I came in, I realized that, of course, they were not prepared. Because when you enter into a contract, then, of course, a contract has a specific timelines in terms of expiry. And therefore, we needed to prepare these young men and women, because this was a contract for 6 months, but of course we renewed it for 2 years, of course. And that was enough period for them to be prepared, because this is a contract. And whenever you get into a contract, you sure that one time it will come to an end. And I think they were not prepared, because from the cries and the whoos, you can tell that this young generation and the young people out there, they really are suffering. And of course, because of the heat of COVID, you can, everybody went, everybody was grounded. And so I understand their cry, and I'm trying to work hard, really. I'm trying to work hard to look for resources so that if you're lucky enough and approached a few donors to see whether they can actually fund, and we have them engaged back.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Community Scouts, you heard from the CS. Stop bothering me now, okay? In the meantime, how do you build trust, Madam CS, between you and KWS and the communities? Which, you know, sometimes, because some KWS staff are very rough on some communities, not all, a few of them, they confiscate their livestock, you know, and they treat them badly sometimes, not all, again. How do you build that trust?
Well, of course, we do social responsibility. We've now started what we are calling coexistence between human and wildlife. And of course, we're doing a lot of social responsibility activities and programs. And we are also going to what we are calling now community conservation, so that they own the wildlife together with us. Because this is heritage to this country, really God-given. And I've always said that those days of my grandparents and even my great-grandparents, they used to tell me a story that the human used to coexist very well with the wildlife. And therefore, we're going back to the roots so that we can also train the communities now to hone. And of course, this is where we are invoking our Wildlife Conservation Management Act in terms of these communities, are they benefiting from the national parks, from the game reserves that are next to them? Because every time the wildlife leave their space, they are going to these communities. And therefore, we are actually reviewing our Wildlife Conservation and Management Act so that we can bring in the issue of benefit sharing to the communities that are around the national parks and the game reserves. Again, of course, we are also capacity building our staff so that, of course, they do not act very rough with the communities. And allow me to say that we have very good laws in this country. And I can tell you for sure, the Wildlife Conservation Management Act 2013 that we have is a very good law that we have. Because if you cross across Tanzania, if there's cattle incursion in any of the park, you lose a half of your cattle to the government, and they sell it. Here in Kenya, if there's incursion in the national parks, our rangers will actually take the cattle out of the park. They will do a shed. They will water the animals. They will feed the animals until you come, and you go to court. You only pay 10,000. And that's why we are seeing there's a lot of laxity with our neighbors, but we are addressing that because every time the Tanzanian cattle come across to Kenya, they even relax because they know that we will take care of them, we will water them, and they will pay 10,000. But with the new the revision that we are doing with the act, then we want to tag a cost on every head. Yeah. And that's why we can have money to pay for compensation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Madam CS, I want to take a break, come back, talk about World Wildlife Day. Coming up, is it this Friday?
Yes, on 3rd March.
3rd of March.
Yes.
World Wildlife Day. What does that mean? What are you planning to do? What's on the agenda? And also, moving forward, you know, how do we raise those tourism numbers? Right?
Okay.
Excellent. Talking to the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, Peninah Malonza. She clearly loves her job. You need to call me to do that work. Huh?
Oh, yes, I will. I will,
I'm
definitely.
I'm kidding. Keep tweeting. Let's get your comments, questions at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag JKLive. JKLive takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Can I sneak into the law?
Yes.